I'm live. Hello. Today is the 27th of June 2023. Good day. And I am reading out of Life as Carola, which is the story of Carola, who is the illegitimate daughter of Lord Griffin, has been banished from his... Oh dear. Okay. Just went offline. Anyway, this is the Life as Carola, who was born 4th of May 1510 in Italy, and she is the illegitimate daughter of Lord Griffin, and she has been banished from the house. He's got a new bride from Spain. Her and her mother escape the Battle of Padua. However, at the end it's discovered that her mother was stabbed. So, Carola is in her teens here, I think, and her mother is dead. And she finds Bernard again, which is in the previous, earlier chapters. He rescues her as a little one from a bear tamer. Chapter 8, The Jester. When I came to the Blue Boar, where Bernard waited for me to join him, I saw a young man looking down at me from an upper window. His forehead was broad and calm, and his eyes had the look of a poet or a philosopher. There was something strange and remote about his face, as if a man whose profile might have been struck on one of those ancient coins sometimes turned up by a plough had come to life again in this modern Italy. I did not see him again until the evening, and then for a moment I did not recognize him in the little hunchback wearing party-coloured clothes, Petruchio the Jester. Although Bernard was sure that our prosperity was due to his leadership, it was Petruchio who brought it to us. There are many strong men, many singers and lutanists, but I think Petruchio must have been unique among jesters. The landlord of an inn where he stayed soon found the truth of the old proverb, laughter is the brother of thirst, and wine the friend to both of them. I think that's funny. Instead of stopping at the inn for a little while, on their way home from work, people who listened to Petruchio stayed until the landlord put up the shutters, which was done only when they had spent all their money. They would gather round him eager and intent as children, while he told them stories in a voice so flexible that he could change it to fit the humour of each of his characters until they became as real as any company of actors could have made them. He would tell them of the legendary exploits of famous crusaders until the dim room rang with the clang of a sword on armour as Christian and infidel joined in battle for the holy city. In another mood, he would unravel the silken skeins that lovers weave, tales of fair women and impetuous gallants with a cuckold or a jealous woman as a butt, and of these was his story. There was once a lady of rare beauty and an even more rare wit. Her family was impoverished, and had no money for her dowry, and so full were they of false pride that they kept their daughter shut away in their decaying house, so that no lover should expose their poverty by demanding her hand in marriage. The father was a recluse and scholar. Only on rare occasions did anyone visit him, and even then it was only another antiquary of venerable years. The desire to collect the relics of vanished past is usually confined to the nobility, but one day there came to the house of Rosalda's father, for Rosalda was the lady whose wit I'm going to expound to you, a prosperous merchant who wished to discover whether a marble torso, which had been uncovered while the foundation of his new terrace was being dug, was as valuable as rumour said it to be. He had brought the statue with him in his travelling coach, and while it was being unwrapped from the cotton quilts in which it had been swathed to protect it against the rough journey, the merchant, whose name was Ricardo, saw the beautiful daughter of the antiquary looking down at him from a high window. Though Ricardo was fat and coarse and nearly 60 years of age, he fell in love with Rosalda as impetuously as though he had been a youth. Far from demanding a dowry, he offered 10,000 gold pieces, a fortune that a comte might have envied, to be paid to her father on the day she became his bride. They were married with almost princely splendour, and it is said that in the cloth of silver bridal robes Rosalda was so beautiful that the cardinal lost his way through the marriage ceremony, and several of the choristers forgot the bridal hymn and broke into a song of praise. But it may be that this has been added to the story recently. Ricardo was rich. He had a house full of rare furniture and hangings, which poorer men of better taste than he had chosen for him. His bride was more beautiful than any woman in the duchy, but there was one thing that Ricardo did not possess, and no one except his wife knew what he lacked. He had paid over nearly half his fortune to alchemists, and had taken more than 100 potions. Some made him sick, some wrecked his bowels, and some had no effect at all, but still his manhood hung down from his loins like a catkin from a hazel twig. The patience of Rosalda, though sufficient for most women, was not inexhaustible. It may be that she had not the gift of fidelity, or perhaps the young gallant whom she met on one of her walks in the public gardens had been more than fairly endowed with the power to compt a woman's heart. Their first meeting was followed by another in a time so short that I will not tell you the exact number of days, lest you think Rosalda did not display sufficient of the reluctance required by the modesty. She had told him how easy it was to climb in at her window. For a few weeks the lovers were very happy, and the bed curtains might have been the cliffs that surrounded an island of bliss. But they had forgotten that the sun shining on an apricot does not only warm, but ripens it, and so does a lover bring fruitfulness to a woman. Rosalda was prepared to leave the house of her husband and cleave to her lover until she found he was not the son of a rich noble, as she had fondly believed, but a student whose resources barely covered the rent of an attic above the shop of a cloth merchant. He was more than eager to share it with her, but Rosalda, upbraiding him for so deceiving her, told him that her sympathy would be only with a fish if she saw his corpse floating down the river. Though the clothes of the period of which I am telling you were well designed for the concealment of such feminine mishaps, Rosalda knew that she must speedily find a way out of this impasse. I told you several times that she was a woman of wit, and when I have told you what she did, I think you will agree with me. The next night her husband was wakened while it was still dark, to find his wife bending over him and apparently trying to take a dagger out of his hand. He sat up and demanded what she was doing, and she said, "May the saints be thanked that I have got you safely back to bed, my dear husband. You came into my room uttering fearful cries. This dagger was in your hand, and you seemed convinced there was an assassin lurking behind the curtains. I dared not call out to you, for I knew that if a sleepwalker is wakened, he will go mad. You shouted to the assassin to come out from behind the curtains, and when the folds never stirred, how could they when there was no one there? You lunged at them again and again. Come to my room, Ricardo, and see what you've done. My beautiful damask, it came all the way from Vienna, and now it is slashed to rags." The old man was bewildered, but obeying his imperious wife, he followed her into her room, and saw what he took to be proof that he had indeed walked in his sleep. The following night he saw yet more evidence of his somnambulant activities. This time it seemed he had wrenched open his wife's jewel casket and stamped on one of her necklaces, fortunately one of which she had never been fond. The filigree was twisted and broken. It was still lying where he had flung it among the ashes. He was even more worried that he had been on the first night, for to replace the necklace would cost him more than twice as much as to send to Verona for new damask. 5 days went by, and each of them added to Ricardo's increasing alarm, for it seemed he could not sleep without causing damage to some valuable, even if ugly, possession. The necklace had been costly enough, but now he must commission an artist to make a faithful copy of the portrait of his elder sister, a rich woman with no direct heir, lest she saw herself so grotesquely defaced. The very morning he was on the point of summoning a foreign physician who was famous for his powers over such strange manifestations. Rosalda came to his room and fondly embraced him, saying, "I had begun to despair that my beauty was not sufficient to be worthy of your attention. But, oh, Ricardo, how have you been able to conceal your ardor from me so long? Did you keep me starved of love to sharpen your appetite? Oh, cruel husband! And yet I must forgive you, for surely no woman ever knew such bliss, such transports as we shared last night. I thought it was mild and temperate being. I thought I was a mild and temperate being. Now I know myself a flame of jealousy, and if I see you cast a single glance at any other woman, I think I should consume her with my wrath. Oh, poor Ricardo, did he never doubt that sleep brought powers to him he knew not when he awoke? I cannot tell you, for this is the end of my story, but it is said that Rosalda's child grew into a fine boy, and throughout all Italy there could not be found a more doting father or husband than was Ricardo. I end this here at page 76. The next chapter is entitled Laughing Harlot.